Okay, we can go ahead and get started here. Oops. Hey, folks, welcome into the News 12 Now desk. Thanks for joining us here on this Wednesday, June 14th, just after 11 o'clock. We are talking about really one of the big stories going on nationally right now. Donald Trump arraigned yesterday in federal court in Miami on 37 felony charges relating to the documents found at his home in Mar-a-Lago. So joining me this morning is Dr. Mary Kate Lazat from Augusta University to talk about the political side of things and sort of the fallout that we've seen. Dr. Lazat, thank you for joining us here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so we're one of the interesting things, I think, is the more controversy that seems to follow the former president, the stronger the support is for him among his party. Why would that be? Why is it that the more bad things happen, the more people are supporting him?
Well, so he's been able to successfully kind of control the narrative, especially among Republicans, with conservative news outlets kind of following his lead in terms of what that narrative should be, how this, issue should be understood. And so people who are only being exposed to conservative news media, they are not watching their local news or other forms of news. They're really only getting that, one message. And so, of course, they're going to continue to support him because his framing of the issue has been that, it's a political hit, that, there's nothing behind it. They're just going after him because he's, the biggest rival.
Yeah, and it's obvious that he's getting all this support right now, and a lot of these early polls tend to be people who are more outspoken and willing to step out there and say, yes, this is who I'm voting for come primary time. Is it possible that moderates who maybe just lean a little bit Republican and plan on voting aren't planning to or aren't feeling the same way?
Yeah, that's probably likely the case. I think that there's a lot of Republicans who have never really loved Trump, or a lot of Republicans who see this as, a bridge too far. Even, Bill Barr was on the news over the weekend saying that, there's really something to this indictment. And if it's true, like this is, big trouble for Donald Trump. I think a lot of moderates, yeah, are probably, looking to support someone like Ron DeSantis, or someone else. And ultimately, they aren't going to agree with this narrative that he's pushing.
Yeah, does this work in the favor? That was kind of leading into my next point. You mentioned Ron DeSantis there, but does this work into the favor of maybe some of these smaller candidates who haven't garnered as much support yet, the Tim Scotts, the Nikki Haley's, who are kind of comparing DeSantis to Trump and kind of putting them in their own box and then trying to free up some space for them? Does it help these guys out?
I think it could. It hasn't so far. Both of those individuals don't have a lot of name recognition, particularly Tim Scott, but even Nikki Haley. I mean, in terms of national politics, obviously locally they're known, but nationally they're not very well known. I think they really need to be a little bit more, stringent in terms of separating themselves and arguing that, distancing themselves from Trump. Obviously, that's difficult for Nikki Haley because she served under him. But I think, if they really want to make a splash, that's the way to go, to try to pick up these moderates and people who, if Trump isn't able to run ultimately, will, be looking for a different candidate.
And on the other side, we've got the Democrats, Joe Biden, going to be their nominee, the incumbent president, obviously. What does this mean for the Democratic side? Because on one hand, yes, it's great to see the guy that you beat in 2020 leading the polls. On the other side, it's kind of got to be a little intimidating to see how much support he's garnering here early on. So what does this mean for the Democrats?
So it's kind of actually a really big problem for the Democrats in that Biden cannot talk about this case because he can't take a side. As president, he's not allowed to, the norms are that he's not supposed to make a federal case like this political. So it's actually kind of bad for him. Even his surrogates, even, staffers, they really aren't supposed to make a federal case like this. political. And so it actually isn't great for them. For other candidates at different levels, they can talk about it, obviously. But it's actually not this great thing for them. I think that Biden takes Trump's candidacy very seriously. He always has. He sees him for, the definite, rival that he is. And he doesn't, think, oh, well, I beat him in 2020. This will be easy. He in no way sees it as it's going to be easy, no matter who the candidate is, but especially if it's Trump.
And so I know you said Biden can't really talk about this sort of thing. Is that just now while this is still ongoing, or say it's those two again in the presidential and the general election in 2024 and they're on the debate stage? Is that something that you'd be surprised to see Biden bring up at all even then?
So if the case is still ongoing, if it hasn't been decided yet, then the norms would suggest that he should not say anything, because he would be trying to potentially be seen as influencing a federal case, and he's not supposed to do that. He's supposed to let Garland do his thing and not try to influence what the Justice Department does.
But if it's settled by then, he can kind of use that then as a political tool.
Yes.
So Donald Trump, after he was arraigned yesterday, flew back to New Jersey and spoke to supporters at his golf club last night. What was his message to those people in attendance?
So, he was really kind of repeating this narrative that all of these different, court cases that have been brought against him, grand juries, indictments, what have you, none of them have any foundation. There's no way that it's going to prevent him from running for president, from being president. They have nothing on him, and it's just political. And, he just sort of repeats that story over and over again. He's also talked about, how these weren't classified documents. He'd unclassified them, which is, not true. Things like that. So, he's just repeating the same framing of the story that he's given over and over.
Yeah, so as this continues to play out in court and in the court of public opinion, what are you looking at next as somebody who's more in tune with this than the average person?
So I'm looking to see how the other candidates who are running for the Republican nomination start talking about this issue. Are they going to say that they would pardon him if he was found guilty? Are they going to, give some sort of obscure answer that doesn't really answer the question about pardoning him? Because that's definitely going to be asked. Are they going to say, this is a case before the courts and we have to see how it's going to play out, and I'm not going to say that he's definitely innocent or he's definitely guilty. Our Justice Department does this and we have to, let it play its course. I'm really interested to see how they separate themselves and what they make of this moment, because it's very possible that they could, get a lot of media attention depending on what they say, if it's different than what's expected, and if, supporters really sort of like their answer.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting to see, like you said, how this all shapes up in the coming days, weeks, months, year and a half until November of 2024. Dr. Mary Kate Lazat, thank you so much for joining us. I know school is out for you, so you got to get back on the summer break, but we do appreciate you taking a little time this morning and joining us.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
So there you go, Dr. Lazat. Again, we do appreciate her time here this morning. Some great insight there into the political side of the arraignment. So if you heard our conversation this morning with Peter Zampa, our Washington correspondent, we talked a little bit about the political side, but really hammered on the legal side as well. You can check that out up on our YouTube channel. But this was a good way to tie it back into the election and the impact that it's going to have on 2024. So, okay, we are, let's take a little break here, get some more things together, and then we'll come back in and be back with another little topic in just a little bit.